Well, hey there, you're on the internet. I had my head professionally cracked open less than 3 days ago. And welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie noob nerds can find all the news you'll need. Now, after the aforementioned surgery, please forgive me if this next week's worth of reviews is a little off. But I shall endeavor to do my best. Now, today's ink is by Noodlers, for which I have an entire bottle. However, this is one of those exclusive Noodlers inks. Can be found at Dromgoole's in Houston. It's Texas Black Bat. And you can't tell, but I've actually only got about this much left. I got the bottle from my mysterious benefactor, and he had taken some for himself, and I've given some to a few other people for them to try, and so a lot of it's gone. But I actually really enjoy this ink, even though it is not perfect. Now, all the tests were done in these two Hero pens. Let me see, which one's this? Yeah, this one's unaltered. It's quite fine, very simple. And then this one, which I made a little broader and a little wetter, which might bring up some problems a little later on. Let's check out the chromatography. As you can see, yeah, when you do chromatography as you're supposed to do, which is a little ink, instantly drop in water, not much remains behind. Most of it got pushed up. But when you let it dry, there is a very distinct difference, at least at the drop on the bottom. So that's not how you're supposed to do it, but... And then I thought I'd compare it to some other Noodlers black inks. Here's Texas Black Bat up at the top. You can see it's very dense, very dark. Next to Heart of Darkness, which is just incredibly dark as well. Noodlers X Feather, also very dark. Noodlers Black Eel, which because of the eel, the lubrication has some longer dry times, so there's a bit more shading there for some reason. Noodlers Borealis Black. Noodlers Dark Matter. Noodlers Bernanke Black, which is a quick drying ink, and Noodlers Zhivago, which is actually kind of green. And as a bonus, I also did L. Lawrence, which is definitely green. Now, this ink, I don't know if it's technically a pigmented ink, but it has a lot of particles in it, so something to be warned about. Also, I was warned that this ink would write like sand, like just sand dry. And also claims that bats don't feather, and that's part of what this ink is about. It's not supposed to feather. Had some problems with it, though. Paper test, top down in density, Clairefontaine 90 grams per square meter. Try and hold that still so you can get a look. Now, personally, I prefer my blacks not to have shading. My black inks, that is. Oh, wait. And as you can see, it's not quite sheen, but it's almost shiny. And you see how dense that is? There's no variation in the color. This is a very solid black ink. It's incredibly dark. Now, the fine took 14 seconds to dry, and the broad took 19. And as these smears might indicate, for me, this wrote so wet. I mean, sopping wet. It was flying out of the nib. I gave it 8 out of 10 wetness. It was very, very wet for me. This, I mean, maybe it's just a weird bottle, but everything out of this bottle has always been very, very wet writing. And, yeah. So, no bleed feather spread here. I said there might be a bit of echo, but honestly, I don't see that really. But, yeah, I mean, it is a black ink, but this is very dense paper. Now, as you can see, the water test really didn't do much. Yeah, nothing at all. So far as removing the writing, but it did smear, which is what I was talking about, the pigment, or, you know, the powder, the black component that floats in the water that is this ink. It's very dense, it's very thick, and so it tends to sort of pile up on the paper, and so when you add water, sometimes you smear sort of that top layer around. And as you can see, the water test kind of smeared, the bleach test did absolutely nothing, so that's kind of interesting. Next is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter. Dry times are exactly the same. Fine was 14, broad was 19. Again, it's kind of shiny. But yeah, no bleed, no feather, no spread. Longish dry times. It did smear a bit after it dried, but not much. Echo might be more of an issue here. It depends on how obscenely sensitive to it you are. This is a very dark ink. Again, water test, the writing is still there, still very clear, but it did sort of smear that top layer around. And again, bleach didn't do a darn thing. Next is Tomoe River Paper, where this paper tends to really bring out shading if there is any shading, but here there is no shading. And here the ink definitely got shiny. It's not sheen, but it definitely got shiny here. And it also really drew out dry times. The fine took 18, the broad took 27. Now this is an obscenely dark ink, but here, maybe it's just because of how smooth the paper is and how hydrophobic it is, and that particle-ness just sort of kept sitting right on top of the paper, because it did smear a little bit. You'll see like little bits of bleh around. It did smear a little bit. The water test was rather messy, as you can see, but again, the writing is very dark. And again, the bleach didn't do a darn thing, so... Sorry, got a bit of a cold. Being intubated will do that. Now, here's the world's worst 20-pound copier paper. And here's where that bats don't feather thing really doesn't work. If you look at the W in whole, if it'll, and the knot, you definitely get a little bit of feathering. Granted, I did use both the broad and the fine on here. Fine took 2.5 seconds to dry, the broad took 3.5, which isn't too bad. Here, there's still no shading whatsoever. Yeah, there is some spread. If you look at the difference in line width, the lines definitely got a bit broader. There is most certainly bleed, but I stand by my saying that this is the world's worst 20-pound copier paper, so let's grain of salt here, people. And yeah, again, water test. It didn't move the writing, but it did sort of move around some of that top layer. You might be able to see that it got a little messy. So very easy to read and recover. It might just get a little dirty. And bleach did nothing once again. Next is Mead Notebook Paper, where again I used both the broad and the fine, but for some reason I only did drying time for the fine, which was 3 seconds. Can't really explain that one to you. Again, no shading. There is some bleed, some feather, some spread. It is not nearly as bad as it was on the copier paper. This is much thinner than this paper. So actually a lot of this is very obscene show through. There is some very near bleed along the edge, which says more about the quality of the paper pressing. But yeah, so be aware of that. But yeah, again, water test. Actually, it wasn't that messy here. And the writing is very clear, very there. Bleach did nothing once again. And lastly is Moleskine notebook paper, where I only used the fine nib except to write the name. And it took 10 seconds to dry, which I can't explain, because this is generally fairly absorbent paper, so I got no explanation for that. But as again, no shading. It's even slightly shiny here again. I say there's feathering, but there's really not much. I mean, here on the B, and I mean, not much else. There is a bit of spread, as you can see, because this is the fine nib. But the water test was really messy. It's still very there, still very dark, still very legible, but still very messy. My cat is angry. But Moleskine, as we've kind of come to expect at this point, and this is modern accurate Moleskine paper, not some of that freaky well-behaved stuff. It did come all the way through pretty much throughout. But again, this was some very wet writing ink. So I don't know if I got a weird batch, because I was told that this would write very, very dry. But yeah, for me it was sopping wet. And actually I've quite enjoyed this ink. But yeah, it's not perfect. I'm asking for trouble right now, but yeah, it's very dense. Like, you see that? Like, the ink is only to about here, but you can't see through that glass, and it's been sitting upright pretty much the whole filming of this little video. So, yeah. There you go, exclusive to Dromgoole's of Houston, Noodler's Texas Black Bat for your consideration from the Triple N Network. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.